think that there are a lot of things that we want to talk about. I know that we want to talk about mental health. We want to talk about your career, what's going on. And funny enough, I forgot to mention this to Chuck, so he doesn't even know that I want to talk about this. But I also want to talk about professional wrestling with you,
please,
because I think that you are you're an underrated professional wrestling aficionado. So I think that it'll be a good conversation. I'll let Chuck start, because he's going to have the probably the better brains of this operation.
Yeah, well, I'll break a little news here and say that you did actually mention that to me before, which is why I have a great Sting story.
I have a great Sting story too.
But it's not about him; it's about a friend impersonating him. But we'll get to that. I swear to. Yeah, yours is probably way better.
It is.
I hyped that up way too much.
No. I still want to hear your buddies for sure. That's awesome. But I can't.
For sure. Yeah.
I cannot fucking wait to tell you my Sting story. Can I cuss?
Yes.
Fuck yeah.
Okay.
So, well, just, sometimes to start, especially with people who are from Appalachia, and I will say that you have the blessing of being a dual citizen, being from the South and from Appalachia. We like to ask people a little bit about where they're from. Now, you're from Chickamauga? I know you live there now, right?
Born and raised, yeah.
Beautiful. North Georgia, hop, skip, and a jump away, and these are for my Middle East Tennessee listeners, from Rock City off of I-24 in good old Chattanooga.
I
can be from there.
I can be in Chattanooga in about 12 minutes, and I can be in Alabama in about 30 minutes. So, multicultural, real diverse.
Oh yeah. Well, what made you want to stay there?
Well, for a long time I moved to New York, and I was there for a year because that was something, and this is definitely not the case now. I feel it was the case then. When you're a comedian and you've put in so much time working the road from whatever, I started in Chattanooga, there comes a time when it's like an unwritten rule where everybody's like, all right, if you're serious about this, you have to make a decision. You have to go to New York, you have to go to LA. And being, I was talking off mic about like me being this like stubborn old school guy, because I was kind of raised by old school people, and I've been doing stand up for so long that like, even though I've always been the young one in the room, no matter what, when I started, I was 16, I've always been the young guy in the room. I identified with those old guys, and because of that, the gritty nature of New York sort of appealed to me. So I was like, I'll go to New York. That seems the most miserable, because that's how my brain worked. That's how my brain worked back then, was like that was when, I call it like, it was the Louis C.K. era. And by that, I mean a lot of things, but one of those certainly is, it was like the height of people thinking that in order to be a comedian or artist of any kind, you had to be a complete miserable fucking twat all the time. And so there's a lot of like my depression and anxiety that still today, I can't quite tell if it's chicken or egg. Like, was I this way and I got into comedy, or did comedy create a lot of this and romanticize a lot of this and make you kind of like nurture it into some fucking bullshit plant that you still keep on the windowsill? But I moved to New York, but the reason I came back, because I was broke. I mean, that was very simple. Came back broke, got very lucky, ran up a bunch of credit cards. John Reap, the Hemi guy, the comedian, John Reap.
Yeah.
I've heard of him. I'm not super
That thing got a Hemi? That's John Reap.
Shit. Yeah.
He won Last Comic Standing. He's a great comedian. Well, me and Reap were drunk as shit one night before I moved to New York, and I've told him this story since, so he don't care. And I told him, I was like, I'm moving to New York, but I don't know what to do, man. Like, it's going to be hard to make money up there. And he just goes, dude, just get a bunch of credit cards and just fucking run your credit card up. And I was like, this is the most redneck advice ever. He goes, no, dude, I'm telling you. He's like, because I used to open for John all the time. And John was like, dude, I'm telling you. He's like, I believe in you, dude. He goes, you're going to be something. Like, we all know it. All of us know it. We're like, this is the kid. He's going to do something. He goes, so just bet on yourself, man. He goes, I did that and ran up all this debt because I believed in myself. And I got the Hemi commercial and paid all that shit off. And I was like, and I'm sitting here, John's like an idol of mine. He's a hero. He's a headlining comic that took me on the road and stuff like that. So I'm like, man, if he believes in me, by God, I believe in me too. So I go to New York. I run up all these fucking credit cards. I go broke and come back home tail tucked. And then my buddy Trey comes up with this character that he'd been workshopping while I was in New York. He'd been doing this NBC Writers Workshop, and he'd always had this idea for this progressive hillbilly character called the liberal redneck. Boom, he makes a video. Boom, it goes viral. Boom, he takes me on the road with him on a tour, and then all of a sudden we're approached and we get a book deal that is more money than I've still to this day ever seen in my life, a piece for us, and I paid off every single bit of my credit card debt. So a year later, we're off the road. I see that my buddy John Reap is in Atlanta, and I'm like, I got a weird weekend off. I'm going to go see John and hang out. Get to Atlanta, John's like, dude, do guest sets, open the show. I'm like, all right, so we have a good time. We're out drinking. We went to some themed clubs, and I was telling John's like, man, I'm so happy for all your success, man. Like, we'd just done The View, all this stuff. He goes, I'm so happy for your success. And I said, well, dude, I owe a lot of that to you. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, well, dude, I didn't know what to do about going to New York, and I just, I racked up debt and credit cards, and luckily we got that book deal, and I paid it all off, and that's what you told me to do. And he pulled a Reese Bobby from Talladega Nights. He goes, what? I told you that shit? He goes, goddamn, boy, I was going through a divorce when I said that. And I was like, oh, well. He goes, well, I'm glad it worked, but goddamn, don't ever tell any other young comic that shit. So I moved back home, tail tucked, and I'm in, and then all that happened. And the reason I've stayed is at first it was because my grandmother's from here. She's since died, but it kept being little reasons like that. And I'd be like, well, I'll move once, blah, blah, blah. And then Trey moved to L.A., Drew moved to L.A., and I'm like, me and my wife got married, and I was like, okay, we're going to move to L.A. And then I was like, well, I feel bad her having to plan a wedding and a move at the same time. We'll just wait. And that literally took us up to the pandemic. And then it was like, fuck, I'm glad we stayed. I'm glad we stayed here. And now because of the pandemic, I know this is a long-winded answer, but because of the pandemic, it has showed the industry no longer really cares if you live in LA or New York, because now they know we can just do meetings via Zoom. We're all really good at it. So I kind of worked myself into a shoot, and now there's a goddamn Marvel Studios down the street. Like when I filmed Zombieland 2, I just drove to Atlanta, did it, came back, so there's not as much pressure. And if I'm already going to be on the road 42 weeks a year anyways, what the fuck does it matter what the other 10 are, where they are? I can fly out if you need me.
Hell yeah. I identify with that a lot. That's really interesting. And you mentioned the book. I did want to say this in the beginning, and I forgot. The book is fantastic, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I'm scared to read it because it was 5 years ago when we wrote it, and I'm a different dude.
Well, I recently listened to it, and I think most of it still holds up pretty well.
I'm worried about that day. I know it's going to come.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least you got the book deal before that, though.
Oh, I'm not. I don't mean like getting canceled. I just mean like I know for a fact that 5 years ago, Corey, there's some things that he knows now and is more enlightened on, and that's fine. That's called growth, and I think that should be encouraged. But like, I mean, I was fucking, when we wrote that book, I was 28 years old. I was drunk as fuck. And we were on the road. So like, I don't know. I'm just so scared to read it. But that's just the neurotic person in me that you just gave me a compliment, and I had to walk it back and throw it in your face.
Well, in fairness, both John and I were in law school 5 years ago, so I can identify with 5 years ago Chuck being way different than present day. But I do want to say I was given that book when I was living in Tennessee still, and it was really great to actually like see you and Drew and Trey as people who thought the same way as I did, but are from the South, because at that time I was feeling very disheartened about like the politics of it and everything. So I did want to say that because it was just it was really great to actually be able to be introduced to you all in like the WellRED comedy trio. But sorry, I think I'm lagging just a little bit. Am I coming in okay?
No, you're fine now. It was, but I was able to keep up. I appreciate you saying that, because a lot of people may not know this. People say that to us all the time. They're like, man, when you guys, and it's so crazy to hear, because like the first couple times I heard it, I was like, these people are full of shit. But I hear it so much now that I'm like, well, I can't say that their life experience is wrong. That they're like, you guys literally, like, I found out about you guys and I was like, holy shit, there's more of us. And I tell them every time, I go, do you realize that this tour did the same thing for us? All of us were just so frustrated, and we knew each other, but we were in comedy, and comedy's different. Comedy attracts the more liberal types. It just always has. All art does. That's how it works. When we found out we were able to sell all these tickets, it clicked with us. We're like, whoa, wait, hold on. We just sold out in North Carolina. How are there this many people in North Carolina that would, holy shit. So like we had that moment too. Like the tour wasn't set up because we were like, we know that there's a bunch of people like us and we will take their money. We were just as goddamn shocked as all y'all were seeing us sell out stuff. I promise. And still to this day, dude, still to this day, whenever we sell out anywhere, when we sell out in California, it blows my mind for completely other reasons. But then when we sell out in North Carolina, I'm like, oh, man, I can't believe I went for so long and thought it was just us three.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so good to see for like other creators too, who are, I think, coming from places like where you're from or like where we're from in West Virginia, to be able to see the path that you all really paved for that kind of creator, that kind of comedian, that kind of podcaster, that type of thing.
Yeah, it's weird. We do not to this is the tooting the WellRED horn portion of the podcast. We talk about that every now and then when we're when you get so drunk that you start thinking of your achievements, and you're thinking about all passing the bar and blah 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 blah, and I'm fucking the man. We will think all the time. We're like, we know that one day there will be a group of liberal Southern hillbilly comedians that surpass us, because we were the first, and that's how it goes. But that's the one thing we go, but no matter what, nobody will ever be able to say that y'all weren't the goddamn first that anyone can think of that kind of started a whole new genre. There have been other comedians in that genre, but we kind of did a thing, and I'm proud of it. It's kind of crazy.
Absolutely, yeah, and well earned. I wanted to transition a little bit. I know that John had mentioned this in DM and earlier about the subject of mental health. It's something that recently John and I talked about on an episode, because I know both him and I have had our own personal experiences with it. You've been very, I think, public and upfront with how you manage your mental health, how you manage your depression, how you deal with that. And so I think we're just really interested in hearing kind of your thoughts on that. What led you to being so public about it, being so open about it? Because I think it's something that I know, at least for myself, for a lot of our listeners, we really appreciate it, because I think anytime you can put a face to mental health, to depression, and put some real stories around it and real experience around it, it really helps other people cope with it and be able to manage it themselves.
Well, for me, so I have this kind of series that I do called, the Daily Depression Discussions, and they're not planned out. They're definitely not I'll miss a day from time to time because that's just how it goes. But basically how it started, I saw a dude out in the park who I've been watching, and I've not been stalking this old man in the park, but we do have because I'm a comedian and he's old, we have the same schedule. We can just kind of do whatever we want. And I've been noticing him in the park, and he's clearly been rehabbing his leg, and he's been on a crutch for a while and not been able to walk good. And today I saw him, and he was holding the crutch above his head, in celebration, and walking without it. And I was like, man, that's awesome. What a great,
Incredible.
What a great parable for you still have to put the work in. If you, your brain is something that you got to take care of if you want it to get better. And so I posted about that, but those started with one day I was just actually feeling depressed, and I hadn't had a depressive snap, as my granny, I guess, would call it, in a while, which is good. I've been, in a more manic mode, but it all started when I kept having people who because my profile's been raised a little bit, maybe I'd say something on Twitter that was a little off color or something. And I would get a message that people would be like, hey man, you got a platform now. You got to really watch more of what you do. And I'd just be like, get the fuck out of my face with this platform talk. Just because I have a lot of people following me, basically something in the news would happen and they'd be like, hey, I figured that with your platform, you would comment on this. And I'm like, well, I didn't see it. I'm sorry. If I talked about everything, if I talked about everything that happened in the news, I'd be sitting here all day on a live stream. Do you understand that it's 24/7 news? And sometimes they got to create some of the shit, but I kept hearing platform. And I was taking it very negatively, as I am wont to do every now and then. And then when I was really feeling depressed, and I was just like, oh my God, I could feel it coming, calm before the storm. And that word platform kept creeping up my mind. I was like, you know what? I do have a platform. That is correct. So get on your phone and say what you would want to hear right now. Say what would have been awesome for you to hear if you were 19, 20 years old, Corey, and you could hear someone that maybe you're a fan of or you look up to, specifically because I say my only experience in life is as a white cis man, and mental health is one of the only eras where we actually get treated a little shitty, in my opinion. Like we're not
100%.
supposed to talk about it, and we get like if where I'm from, man, and I know that y'all know this, dude. When I was younger, if I was to say I'm depressed, I would have literally just got called a pussy. Like that's it. And I was just like, that's what people around you, that's what the people that follow you, that they're hearing. So use your platform and let them know that they're not alone at least. And you know, I'll be forthright with you. Those videos do a lot of good for me. Like they're still a little selfish. Like when I put one of those out, it feels good to do it. Helping people is a nice side benefit of it being helpful for me. And I'm glad that it does help a lot of people. And because I've gotten such good feedback, it's encouraged me to keep it going. Because I've had some pretty rough DMs, if you could imagine, of people. But then there were some that was like, hey man, I ain't gonna lie, I've had some that were literally going, dude, I was kind of considering killing myself tonight. And I'm not trying to laugh. It's just that's my reaction to something so awkward and terrible.
Sure,
I was thinking about killing myself tonight, and your video popped across my screen, and it made me feel better. And I'm not stupid enough to think that they might not be with us now, but they did feel better in that moment. And that sort of is what we all as comedians want to do anyways with our jokes. So now it's just a not less funny extension of that same philosophy, I suppose.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is great. I think if we had more people who, look, it's funny that you mentioned the whole platform thing, because obviously Chuck and I nowhere near where you are. Appodlachia nowhere near WellRED is.
Bullshit.
But in terms of
I've seen y'all's Twitter. Don't bullshit me, son.
And in terms of
the labor of love,
all them wrestling figurines, that Patreon money, I know how it is.
yeah. In terms of the platform thing, we also, like, if something happens in Appalachia, like now everybody kind of turns to us and says, like, you know, why haven't you said something on this, or why are you, you know? And I've dealt with depression for a really long time, so when people do that, I take it as a negative thing, as if they think I'm not doing my job, like, you know, I'm not doing enough for the region or whatever. And I tend to, you know, I'll text Chuck and be like, how could they say this, you know? And then I have to go and talk to my wife, who is much smarter and, you know, doesn't have as many issues as I do. And she, you know, she's
less reactionary, more level-headed than both of us.
Very. And so she'll tell me, like, that's not what they're saying. They're, you know, and they're saying you have a platform, you can talk about these things.
Yeah.
And so I get what you're saying. And I think that there needs to be more discussion with this. And you talk about how being a guy, I think we are so lucky to have to be white men. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, dude, absolutely. I'll still take it in the draft every single day.
Exactly. Like I'm very pumped that I went top 5 in the draft. I mean,
oh, dude, shit.
I'd have been top 2, but I was obese for a number of years, so that you know, that plummets me.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, it's tough though to talk about these things, and you're doing it at a new level, like where you're out there telling people this is what I deal with. How do you balance being this funny, you know, Buttercream Dream, but also kind of being this vulnerable, you know, Corey?
Some days I'm having to learn which guy's driving the boat every day, and that's a struggle, you know, like because at the end of the day, like, I'm still a guy who, like, you know, look, I suffer from depression. Some people suffer from depression, but I also am like, however, like, you know, the moment that you're letting it affect other people, you still have to get your shit in check. And so, like, I'm like, look, tomorrow, Corey, you have 3 sketches that you're supposed to rewrite. It really doesn't matter whether you feel good or not. You still have to get them done because other people are counting on you. So really, it's just me trying to compartmentalize all that stuff. Like, when I'm in a great mood today. Earlier today, I got a lot of stuff done because it's just the way I've had to learn to manage my depression and stuff. Is I'm like, all right, you feel really good today. Try to get a week ahead just in case you have some bad days this week that you can allow yourself to kind of not. that's also speaking from a place of privilege because I make my own schedule. I'm in the creative field. So that's another thing that I'm like always, I try to be aware of when I'm giving quote unquote advice. I'm just speaking from my experience. It's what I know. But really what it all boils down to is like, I just have to, depression is your life. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not. It is your life. And so like if you have a handicap in your foot, you've got to do certain things different in order to compensate for that. And depression is no different. And it sucks that we have to do that, but this is just the hand I was dealt. And it's just those little concessions that I have to make every day. Sometimes I wake up and I know for a fact Buttercream's driving the boat and it's going to be a good day and we're going to crank them out and we're going to have a good day. And then some days I wake up and I know that ain't the case. And unless I have something that's an emergency that I have to do, I'm doing a lot better at giving myself a break, which is something that it took me literally 30 years to learn to do, is give myself a break because, you know, you guys know where we're from, man. Like it's fucking you work until your feet hit the floor or your ass hits the ground and goddamn it. And I'm not, and by the way, there's people that have to do that and that's a great attitude to have, but like, oh man, you got to find balance because at the end of the day, what's it all about? If you hate everything, then what's it all about? So I'm just trying to take a little better care of myself and just that's my thing. Is every morning I wake up and go, who's driving? All right, well, he's not as good of a driver, so maybe go slower. You know.
I like that. I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I just want to jump in here since we're talking about the subject. The pussy comment really resonated with me because
I totally forgot what you meant by that, and I get it now.
Okay,
I was
good.
like, wait, hold up, which story?
I should say being called a pussy.
Yeah.
Because so. And I'm sure this is the same for you and for John. I mean, like we mentioned where we grew up, I was involved like a lot of, I guess, quote unquote masculine things. I was in Boy Scouts. I did sports, was not good at them, but I did them.
Yeah. That's all you gotta do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we've talked ad nauseum about how terrible I was at soccer. But the thing is like when you're, and I worked on a farm too, like with all these like very masculine, like manly men, air quotes. And I think you're kind of, it's almost like you're programmed to push those things past you, like depression, like mental health issues, because you're supposed to be tougher than that.
Yeah.
And I think like one thing that I think you're doing, and then just, I think people in general, when they're open about these things, is engaging, I think, in a little bit of, I don't know if the right word is reprogramming, but that's what I'll choose to call it, especially for men, but just for people in general, because there's been such a stigma around mental health. And so this isn't really a question, but it's just more of a comment. I appreciate what you're doing because it helps give a permission structure for other, I think, men to feel comfortable being vulnerable about those kinds of things.
Yeah. And I mean, and again, you know, I'm a big dude who likes to preface things because I know if I just say things speaking from my own experience and it seems like I think that's everyone else's experience, I can understand that I come off as a bit of a douche because I'm in the entertainment, man. Like I kind of like I get to make my own rule book. Like I'm allowed to wear a pink robe to the grocery store because I'm not gonna run into a guy who might fire me because he's my boss. Like that don't. I wear a pink robe to the grocery store and somebody takes a picture of me and puts it on Twitter. I get 1,000 new followers. I'm allowed to be weird.
I'm
allowed to be weird and I'm allowed to, but that's really what it was like one day, like I didn't talk about my depression that much. And one day that whole, like, you're a pussy. I started thinking, I was like, they already call you that for everything else about you. Like everything else about you. Like you're a fucking liberal. You think people should have rights. You dress weird. You know, like you're kind of like I've always been the artsy dude. I've always been like I was definitely the only guy ever to go to my school that played football but was also in the drama club. And that, you know, I've always been a more sensitive dude. And like I'm, you know, they know me around here. I'm the dude. Like if I ran over a squirrel, I'm gonna probably be really upset about that. Like that upsets me. I would definitely still eat it though. Like there's a dichotomy about me.
100%.
But like eventually one day I was like, dude, why in God's just be everything else about you yourself? I'm allowed to do that, but maybe maybe it will at least, like, if I'm aware that there's people out there that can't just be like, I can't really just talk about my depression because like it'll just be weird at home and weird at school. I get it, but maybe if somebody's like, but at least I know that Corey, who seems, it's so funny to even say this, like, he's otherwise Corey seems to have it together, you know. So to know that he's struggling too. Are you telling me that the guy that goes outside and don't wear a shirt, 34 years old, puts a wrestling belt on and screams at politicians on his phone, that guy has some brain trouble? Get the fuck out of here, man. I tell you what, you see something new every day. Goddamn, boy, what do you say about that?
I think that's a fair way to put it. But
that's my Trey Crowder impression, by the way.
Honestly, that's literally what I was about to say. Was have you heard that from Trey?
Do you want me to teach everyone on your show how to do the perfect impression of Trey Crowder?
Do it.
Please do.
All right. First off, here's what you do. You start out with a Dr. Phil impersonation. That's where you start. That's your base. You right here. Now, look, you're not a monster. You're a good guy. Okay. You're fine. And then you add some pretentious words like, ostensibly what I'd do if I was in your precarious situation. All right, so now you've got the words and you've got the Dr. Phil as the base. Now pretend that Dr. Phil either had a severe sinus attack or got punched in the nose, and you just bring it right here. Look, man, listen. I'll tell you what. I grew up in East Tennessee, all right? Those are where my people are. God damn it. And I'll tell you right now, you don't want to fuck with me. You either fish or cut bait, you son of a bitch. And that's how you do Trey. That's the starter kit.
That was pretty damn good.
I know.
We could tell you, but you worked on that one. That's for a long time, I'm sure. That's pretty good. Yeah. I thought I was talking to Trey for a second. Who is the last piece? That's the last piece of the WellRED podcast.
Oh, he hadn't
has
been
to come on this show. That's it.
He hasn't.
Nope.
Oh.
Now I got to transition to wrestling because it's so funny because the other day I was looking. I don't remember what you posted, but how long? Maybe it's been recent. Maybe it's not. You seem to have a lot of friends in the indie wrestling scene.
Yeah.
Is that new? Has that come over the last, since Buttercream Dream, or has it been for a while?
Buttercream Dream has definitely helped it. It's definitely helped it a lot, but a lot of people don't know one of my best buddies in the whole world is Conrad Thompson.
That's where I was going.
Of the Conrad Thompson podcast empire. And I'm one of the rare people who I knew Conrad before all that. I think when me and Conrad met, he had just started his Bruce Pritchard podcast, which was the first one he ever did. He had just been helping Ric Flair with his, which of course is how he met his wife, Megan. And me and Conrad just become buddies, and we now Conrad was very successful before all the podcasts, but our entertainment careers, I met him right as WellRED started, and right when he started the podcast, and so we've just kind of had our relationship and careers have just kind of been going at the same time, so we relate to each other in a lot of ways. Because that, I was, if there's an AEW show and I want to go to it and go backstage or whatever, I'm in. And because of that, I met a lot of these dudes. But then, yes, when I started doing the Buttercream Dream, and I can't tell you how much it hits for me that these dudes like me, because I've been real nervous that I know, and you know, that what I'm doing is a celebration of wrestling, but I was so worried, and I talked to Conrad about it a bunch, and he's like, dude, I'm telling you, you're good. I was just so worried that they would be like, look at this fucking guy trying to steal our gimmick, yada yada. And I always had my defenses were always ready for me to be like, we let Mick Foley do stand-up at comedy clubs. Get the fuck out of here. We're even. You know what I mean? I've been so ready to be like, Jake the Snake was at the Comedy Catch last week. What's that? What about that? But and by the way, I'm certain that there are some out there that don't like me, that probably see it and they're like, fuck. But for the most part, the dudes that I've hung out with, I've had conversations about it with Dustin Rhodes and, Gold Dust, for those of you. And, I'm not saying he's my biggest fan, but it's not an offensive gimmick to him. And that meant a lot to me, because when I meet somebody, I always like to ask, hey man, is what I'm doing respectful to you? Because, and they'll most of the time when I'm in, they'll be like, we can tell you're a fan. You know what I mean? And that's okay. So yeah, just go into the shows. Like I always go to Conrad puts on StarCast, and there's always a GCW event, and I always go. And so I've just got to meet these dudes, and there's so much that we have in common. Like it's like talking, like us talking. It's like two comedians talking or two wrestlers talking. We do different things, and obviously what they do is more dangerous and scary. But like the philosophy and the psychology of everything that we're doing is exactly the same. They get into a wrestling ring. I go on stage. We're both trying to entertain people. We're both playing a part. There's again, the physicality is a lot different, but the mentality is no different at all. And I have a ton of musician friends, and we're friends because like I can't explain it other than there's just like this understood vibe that we all have of like we don't do the exact same thing, but we do enough of the thing that you're my brother forever, and I would fucking murder someone for you, and I've only known you for 5 minutes. Like I like you kind of better than I like some of my family, and I love my family. It's just that they don't get it, and you get it. And therefore we don't like when I meet a regular person, or as we call them, a civilian, I've got to like explain for them to understand any stupid ass decision I make. I have to be like, you have to understand the lifestyle that I live in, the blah, blah, blah. All these people already get it. So you don't have to waste time with the origin story and this is what I do and this is what I do. You just go, I'm an artist. And they're like, fucking A, sucks, don't it? You know, your brothers.
Well, I will point out to our listeners, because I'm going to guarantee that probably like 85, 90% have no idea what we're talking about. And I just want to clarify, I'm purely having this discussion based off the most selfish fucking reason possible. Like, this is for me. Chuck, in the show notes, he'll I'm sure put like end of wrestling conversations. So
is it? Yeah. Is it this?
Always put the timestamps in because I know some people don't like our bullshit in the beginning. So
I wish I was that dedicated to our timestamps on ours, because sometimes we'll have that and we're like, I bet you people don't really want to hear this. And I'm like, I guess they'll have to fucking decide for themselves.
Yeah. So I just wanted to point out, like, I'm doing this purely off the most look. Chuck has controlled my wrestling discussion for the last year and a half. I'm not saying he did it like on purpose, but he keeps me.
I still know shit about wrestling.
He keeps me on the straight and narrow, so don't go off.
You're not a wrestling fan, Chuck?
It's not that I'm not a fan. I just don't follow it very closely.
No, I understand.
So who's your guy at the top, guy or woman? Who's the best wrestler to you right now?
Well, best wrestler and who's my guy, I guess, is a different question a little bit. I would say that, like, the smart marks all want to say like Will Ospreay's the best, worker, best wrestler, in Japan. I don't disagree with that. But I like personality wise, I'll tell you the guy that I relate to the most. Now, I will tell you this, and I tell Conrad this all the time. I have fallen behind a lot during COVID just because I know that they have to do the shows crowdless. I get that. They're doing what they have to do, but they don't hit for me.
Me too.
And I got to go to some of them because I got cleared, masked up, tested, and just went to Jacksonville because I was allowed to. Got to hang out with, Tony and all those guys. But like, I watched a couple and I'm like, man, they are really doing the absolute best they can under the circumstances. But I don't like it because when I watch wrestling without a crowd, I'm instantly reminded of this horrible situation that we're in. And that's what I'm trying to get away from for a second. Yeah. So the way that I'm trying to say this is I think they're doing awesome with no crowds, and it's not their fault that I don't watch, but that's absolutely why I haven't really been watching that much. But I said all that to say this, really love Hangman Page. I think that dude gets it. That dude reminds me, he's old school, but he also is hip and cool at the same time. I love his Twitter presence. It seems like me and him would really get along. I haven't got to meet him. But also, best heel in the business, in my opinion, MJF, dude. Because he's the real dude. He's the real deal. So at StarCast in Chicago, which was the last StarCast, I think, before COVID. No, it was Baltimore. But anyways, I'm in Chicago, and MJF's there. And he's actually not even really got his big shining moment on AEW yet. But his gimmick was he was doing a meet and greet, and he made his meet and greet the most expensive meet and greet because he, quote, didn't want to have to talk to poor people. and dude, his shit was sold out. And for the first 45 minutes, people had to take a picture behind him because he was asleep on the table. and people were fucking eating it up. And that's the thing where you go like, well, is he a bad guy then because people love it? But like, dude, he's so good at it, man. Like, he's just such a huge asshole, and I absolutely love his work. I think he's tremendous. I like Kevin Owens. I like a lot of the WWE people. I think that when I watch that, a lot of them are being misused, but at the same time, they've got a huge roster and like 19 belts that people have to win, which don't hit for me. But I like that wrestling seems to be in a good place, and there's a lot of promotions doing well, and I hope that the ones that have survived COVID will continue to grow, because I think that it's such a Drew Morgan from the WellRED Comedy Tour has said this before, and I agree with him. It's modern day Shakespeare.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
I think it's fucking great. Look, I grew up watching wrestling. Like it consumed my entire life. I mean, literally, I'm a 28-year-old man who, like, throughout my entire house has a bunch of like Mick Foley stuff everywhere.
He's the best.
He is by far. I think that you can see the top. I can right there.
Yeah.
I got that. That's from 1998. The first time I ever met Mick Foley. He
that was
signed
his Hell
that.
in a Cell year, right?
It was, and he, for some reason, came to Parkersburg, West Virginia, and
right.
Little known fact: Mick Foley's first match was in Clarksburg, West Virginia, which just happened to be where I was born. So I think it was pretty much meant to be.
Humble brag here. I talked to Mick the other day.
I will flip this table.
So Mick will message me every now and then, and I always I know right now. I hope he doesn't hear this and be like, "What a fucking mark." But
if he hears this, I will freak out.
He's a huge fan of the show. So.
Yeah, but like, I'll never message him because I'm like, okay, I can't message him because then he'll be like, "Oh, hey, I'm Mick Foley. I'm the one that starts this conversation." But even though he doesn't think like that because he's such a sweet guy, but he'll message me like, I don't know if he's like not allowed to like share my videos because of he's maybe still under contract or something like that.
Yeah.
And I say that because it would be so easy for him just to share it or like it, but he never does. He'll like it, and then I'll get a message from him detailing exactly why he liked the video, which super, dude, like, it hits for me so hard. He'll be like, dude, this was awesome because blah, blah, because that's how his mind works. He's like, like, I love how you booked this video. You know what I mean? And so we'll talk, and I got to explain to him the other day how much like the Attitude Era was like the era I grew up in, and also like how much in my comedy career and just artistic career, I was inspired by him because with the Buttercream Dream, and then I made Buttercream Dream's aunt, who is Aunt Lita, and then I made all these other characters. Like, that's straight from Mick Foley gave us all the permission of, you don't have to be one thing. You can be, if you've got this other idea, just do it. Like, it's fine. Have a split personality, have a bunch of characters create this world. So he's always been like in the Buttercream world. People would tell me, they're like, who's Buttercream based on? And I was like, well, to me, there's a little flair in there. The name is based on Dusty Rhodes. The name is based on Dusty Rhodes. The SKUs are based on Ric Flair. But there's all and the how wild I'll get with the other stuff. There's a lot of Mick Foley in there, and the accent is kind of a mixture between just mine and Stone Cold's. So, but all of it comes together for the Buttercream Dream, and Mick Foley's a huge part of that. So anyways, I just wanted to throw in the fact that every now and then Mick Foley tells me I'm great.
You get to talk to
brag.
Yeah. Probably the smartest professional wrestler too.
Oh yeah.
Of all time.
He's a bright guy. I don't know if you heard, but he likes me. So that dude's pretty smart.
He's pretty smart.
Yeah.
You mentioned having a Sting story, so I want to give you the opportunity to tell that one before we move on.
So I'm in Vegas at StarCast, and me and my buddy Cassio Kid are hanging out. Cassio Kid, aka the Million Tater Man. We were hanging out, and we'd been like hanging out with wrestlers all day. I think I'd been with Stan Hansen earlier, and then I was like about to go hang out with Jimmy Hart for a while. So it was like a really awesome, great day. We're all drunk.
Yeah, that's it. Just Jimmy Hart, no big deal.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, can I tell you, nicest guy you will ever meet. Treats his fan when I was actually working his meet and greet. I wanted to hang out with him for 8 hours, and the only way to do that is to I helped him take pictures for his meet and greet. And dude, when he showed up, I'm like, "Hey, I'm Corey. I'm gonna be helping you out." And he's like, "Corey, Jimmy Hart, very nice to meet you, man."
That's pretty good right there.
Let me go ahead and tell you something right now. I know that you're a good guy, and you're probably going to offer to get me a water. Jimmy Hart don't want a water because Jimmy Hart is going to sit here and sign autographs, and I ain't going to go to the bathroom, so I don't have no water. So he don't have any water during his meet and greets because he don't want anybody to have to stand there and wait. Dude, he entertained people the whole time.
Wow.
He told stories. Like, people would be like, Jimmy Hart, oh my God, I saw you with my dad at the Sportatorium in '88, and he would like remember the show, and he would be like, and he was just the nicest guy. Point is, so we're in the green room later that day. Me and Million Tater Man, Cassio Kid, Matt Mitchell are sitting there, and I think we're just like, we're eating some crackers and cheese or something like that, you know, like stealing from Conrad's free buffet. and all of a sudden, Sting walks in full Sting black and white makeup, and Cassio's just like, fucking Sting, dude, it's fucking Sting. And I was like, holy fucking shit, Sting. Now he's got the bat. He's got the trench coat on, like it's
a duster, yeah,
it's Sting. So anyways, Sting, this is another funny story that Shivani cracked me up. I was walking down the hall. Me and Tony Schiavone were walking down the hall, and this dude had a bat, and he's like, Shivani, and he's like, what's up, man? He goes, I'm going to have Sting sign this bat, and he goes, yeah, why don't you crack him in the head with it and watch him no-sell that shit? So then we get in there, and there's Sting, and he goes and he sits down, and Conrad goes over and he's talking to him, and he's just like, hey, man, I just want to let you know that we're really appreciative that you came to StarCast. This is awesome. And Sting's a super nice guy. He's like, yeah, thanks, man. Thanks, man. And he's sitting there, and he's made a plate of, like, crackers and cheese. You know, and he's just sitting there, and he's Sting. He's got really great, like, posture, like he's literally about to come out the rafters on somebody. And so Conrad comes back up, and he's like, do you need anything else? And he goes, and Sting's just like, no, I'm fine. And he goes, okay. He goes, anyways, it's just great that you're here. And he goes, yeah, it's a wonderful event to be to. I get to see some of my friends, you know, the ones that are still left. And he says that, and a chill came over all of us. But as he did that, you know how, like, in a movie when someone said that, they would take a puff of a cigarette? At that time, he picked up a cube of cheese and was like eating it, but like the way he was having to eat it, he knew that he couldn't get his lipstick messed up, so he was just like, and he just took a bite of it, and we're just sitting there like with cold chills, but like having to like hold in our laughter because somebody was like, did fucking Sting just say that shit? Eat some cheese? Is that what happened? Did we just see that? And I was like, you fucking did. He's eating goddamn cold cuts. Talking about Ultimate Warrior being dead. This is crazy. That's awesome. It was fucking awesome. I love going to those events and hanging out with those old wrestlers, man. They're the best in the world.
That's incredible. I love it. My Sting story is not anywhere near as good. I will tell
I
it.
should have opened with it.
That's what I was thinking. I don't know why he let you go first. Look,
but no, this is the beauty of editing this, because I can cut this out and put it first. So that's really it's really not that. It's probably not even that funny in hindsight. But this is like his, at least for me, I remember his peak time, I guess, being, was it like late 90s maybe?
Yeah,
that's when he was super popular.
So it depends on which Sting you're talking about. Surfer Sting was early 90s, who I loved as a kid because he was bright and neon. But if you're talking about the Sting, white and black face paint, crow Sting with the bat, that's going to be your 97, 98 WCW during the 83 weeks when the Monday Night Wars were going on and the NWO.
God, I love the Monday Night Wars.
Oh, the shit, man.
Yes, that was it. So, but I think it was in fourth grade or third or fourth grade.
Oh, did y'all go to high school together?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, that's adorable.
We're cute. We were roommates.
Yeah, college roommates too. Wow.
Damn.
So it was like third or fourth grade, and this kid was like obsessed with Sting, and so we had like this Halloween party at school, and most of us half-assed it. Like, I think I maybe like came in looking vaguely like Woody from Toy Story. I don't know. But this kid comes in, and his mom clearly spent hours on like the makeup, full fucking face, everything, huge oversized duster, like was complete anomaly in the class. And I respect that. But what was funny is he couldn't decide who he wanted to be because he also really liked Karl Malone.
Shut the fuck up.
So he had all this on, but underneath the duster, he had a Utah Jazz jersey. So he ended up looking like a fucking juggalo.
Dude, you undersold that
Yeah, you
so
did.
well. That's
That
so
was
much
good.
better than mine. That's fucking hilarious. Juggalo Sting.
Juggalo Sting. That's honestly, that could be his next iteration.
Dude, how about we were somewhere in Michigan right before the pandemic, and it was like this fucking rundown club. I'm like, we were having to like sincerely worry about stepping on like heroin needles when we were walking down the aisle to get to the stage or whatever. And me and Trey are lost. We were in a freight elevator, and we just saw like, I mean, like 4 to 5 pallets of Fago. And we're like, what the fuck is going? We're like, is Fago like a big thing in Michigan? And I was just joking. I finally see the guy that's running the place. And I go, hey man, y'all having a goddamn was the Insane Clown Posse here this weekend? They go, no, an Insane Clown Posse cover band. Imagine that fucking show.
Oh
Holy
Jesus,
shit.
that would be a shit show for sure.
But I want to go.
Yeah,
Oh
me
fuck
too.
yeah, 100%. John, you mentioned.
Sorry, I got us off the rails. That's my fault.
No, we're on the rails.
This
This
is great.
has all
Well,
been on
this
the
is,
rails.
I mean, shit, this is the show.
Okay, good.
It's been my favorite conversation so far. Current projects, John, you mentioned that you wanted to.
Yeah,
touch
I wanted to. So obviously we're still in pandemic mode. So, but we're starting to come out of it. Do you have? I've actually just did a show yesterday with I think 3 other comedians, and they were saying that they just started booking dates and stuff.
Yeah.
Have you all started doing that?
We haven't started booking dates. We're looking to fall. It's a little trickier with 3 dudes. Like if all of us toured separately, I think all of us would have already started doing some half capacity shows because it would have been fine. But when there's 3 dudes, you're already splitting it up anyways. You start going, well, by the time we get there, I'm making, let's just stay home. Because luckily I've had a bunch of writing work that has kind of held me over. Weirdly enough, sometimes people want me to write stuff for them, or better yet, just edit things like, hey, what would be funnier about this? And then they'll give me money and I'll just give it back to them. It's called being a punch-up artist, which is awesome. And but we are a lot of the stuff that like kind of we were in production with before COVID is now starting to restart. And unfortunately, they're all such in their infancy that I can't really speak that much on them. But I will tell you, I can say legally, we're working on a sitcom, working on a cartoon, working on a travel type show. I have and also working on another pilot deal. Again, it's so stupid to even say what I just said because they're also such in their infancy. But a lot of stuff going on, just none of it even close to done. But a lot of irons in the fire. I've got Through the Screen Door podcast, which is unfortunately my co-host Matt Coon is he had COVID, then he had a tumor removed, and it's been a whole thing.
Yeah.
But we're still doing it. It's been a whole thing. But I another project that literally just popped on my mind, but I can't say much about it. But I will tell you that it's a British themed show that I'm working on that I'm pretty excited about. But I'm just ready to get back out there. My options are still kind of open. I've got enough going on. I'm really excited to see what it's like for me when I go out because I oddly enough raised my profile during COVID, which is weird. I didn't think that was going to be possible. And so I'm really excited to go out and do stand up for new people because I haven't done stand up for like new people in a long time because like our shows have all sold out or done really well in the past 5 years, but it's been like recurring WellRED fans, like fans that we've accumulated over 5 years that like every now and then it's like, of course there's some new people coming through, but like dude, our fans are so awesome that like we've seen people that are like, this is our 15th time seeing you. And we're like, are you fucking insane?
Wow.
I definitely know that only 3 times was it different because that's how tours work. And they're like, we fucking love it. You're always drunk. It is different. So I'm excited now to, this is another self-serving statement that I'm about to say. Like I've gained a lot of fans in the past year and a half. And in my opinion, stand-up is the thing I'm the best at. So I'm very excited and also a little nervous to show them my thing that they didn't know that I could do,
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have that many issues selling anything out. One, because you have gained so many followers, and 2, from what what I'm hearing about like other comics and stuff, as soon as they book shows, they're just like selling out immediately because people are ready. There's one thing that I do want to hit on that. I don't know. I guess it's now a past project, but you worked with one of our former guests on this show, which is Old Gods of Appalachia.
Oh yeah. It's
Yeah.
no, it's not a form. I mean, I was in my first episode of this season,
Okay.
but I still have a 3-episode arc. So
All right. Well, look at that.
next
That's pretty
week,
awesome.
actually, I will be doing some more scenes with Yuri Lowenthal, who Yuri Lowenthal is one of the most prolific voice actors in the dadgum world. I mean, he's the voice of Spider-Man on PlayStation and has been forever. So no, I'm not, I can't tell you what happens because I don't want to give the story away. But dude, that
That's
was
true.
like, I was so pumped. I've been listening to that podcast for a while, and I just think it's tremendous. I think it's just great.
Really good.
It's really, really good. And I'll just straight up tell you, I just reached out. I just said, I tweeted at him. I was like, "Fucking love the show." And then I realized that they were following me, and I was like, "Oh, what? Hold on, okay, maybe." And I was just like, "Dude, listen, if ever you've got room," and they were just like, "We'll fucking write you a character right now. This would be great." And so yeah, it's and so I'm really excited about that because I don't know, man. Like that was such an honor for me to be able to work on that, and I feel like I did a pretty decent job. But yeah, that was fun, man. I really think
I've heard it was
that
awesome.
yeah, that show, like if you have a really great television show, they have an Emmy, and I know they have like podcast awards, but I don't know the one that's considered the most prestigious or whatever. But like they're doing, in my opinion, they're doing EGOT level work
100%
in the podcast world. And I think that podcasts are still such a new medium that we don't respect them in that way. But I feel like one day that's going to be a really cool thing for me to tell my kids that I was on Old Gods of Appalachia. And fuck my kids. It was cool to me. I don't care what they think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's interesting because podcasts, I mean, you can pull together a microphone and publish something, but what they do is, I mean, the production quality, the writing is incredible,
It's
and
art.
just everything they put into it is really, really good.
Yeah, it's tremendous, and I really hope that, and I know we will. I know we'll see bigger and better things from that crew.
Oh yeah,
one for sure. Well, to wrap, because I know we've had it for almost an hour here. We really appreciate you coming on, and
I'm glad y'all have me. I'm glad y'all let me drink and cuss.
Oh yeah, you're welcome to it anytime. Well, Corey, we won't keep you any longer. Again, really appreciate you coming on. It's been a real fun time talking with you, and really excited about all the stuff you're doing in the future. It sounds like you got a lot of really cool stuff planned, so we're excited to see all of it.
I hope it works out, and I appreciate you guys having me. And I'll come back anytime, man. I had fun.
Awesome.
Thanks, man. We appreciate
thanks so
it.
much.
All right, y'all. Have a great night.
You too. Bye bye.